Okay, well, let's start. It's like
Okay, cool.
one second. Go back. Hi everyone, thank you for coming. It's nice to see you all. Happy New Year to everyone. So today we've got the first meetup of 2025. So we've been running now for 2 successive years. So for those of you, this is something new. The Power BI user group is part of the user group platform. So we formed it in late 2022 with our first event being 2 years ago today. Yeah, we meet monthly in central Birmingham. A lot of the time it is in this office. We will always try and get other locations as well. So great way to network, great skills and discover opportunities. Sharing best practices, practical takeaways, real world success stories. And as I said, yeah, so finding efficiencies and productivity. So networking. Just recruitment for 10 seconds, just talking shop quickly. If you're looking for a new role or if you want to come and find myself or Liam in the back, we'd be more than happy to speak to you about the current affairs in terms of the market at the moment. So today we're going to be starting with Gregor Bruner, who will be doing Measure Killer. We'll have a short break, handing over to yours truly, John, who will be talking about creating a data culture. So yeah, TBC on the venues. We'll always have it here if possible, but we will try and get some other ones if possible. So in March, we'll be joined by Johnny, and then we'll be joined by Chandeep Chabra as well. April, we're going to be looking at lightning talks as well. So we haven't got all of those confirmed. So if anyone fancies it, you want to come and find me, and you've got something interesting that you want to talk about, we're putting that shortlist together at the moment. And yeah, so venues and speakers, if anyone knows anyone who wants to do a talk, or if anyone who's happy to host our events, please do let us know. Yeah, thanks all for coming. Sorry about the temperature, but 3 fans around, so hopefully it doesn't create an oven. But yeah, thanks all for coming. Okay, Gregor, am I ready whenever you are?
Yes. Hello, everyone. First of all, thanks for having me. Thank you to the organizers of this event. I'm going to show you today all about Measure Killer, which is a tool, an external tool for Power BI. I'm just going to start by sharing my screen. Some of you might already heard or even used it. Has been around for almost 3 years. So Measure Killer is part of it is free, and I'm mostly going to focus on the free features today, but we also have some paid upgrades to the tool. It's a tool that basically does 2 things, I would say. One is it identifies and helps you remove unused columns and measures from your Power BI report and model. And the other thing is something more of an audit or governance tool. So it can, I don't know, scan and whole Power BI or Fabric tenant, find all the models, all the reports there, apply best practices, see who has access to what in your tenant and so on. So basically those 2 things, I would say. I don't really see any hands or something like this. So maybe if some of you from the organizing team can let me know if there are any questions, that would be great, because I would like to take the questions whenever they come up.
Okay, Gregor.
Cool. So we just this afternoon, we released a new version, version 2.6. Maybe one of the main features here is we also enabled the new report layout format, PBIR, that did not work with Measure Killer before, but now we upgraded it for that also to work. So let me show you what this tool can do for you. Imagine I have this little sales report here. As you can see, it just has like 2 pages. It's like this standard showcase report. Now I can run Measure Killer and say, okay, I want to analyze a single report and model. So that's basically the simple analysis. And then later I can also show if we have a shared model, like we have multiple Power BI reports that have a live connection to a semantic model in the Power BI service. We can also analyze those, but let's start simple. So Measure Killer will automatically detect, just like other external tools, the file that I have open in Power BI right now. I click on Next. And then I can also see it shows sales report here. I can click on Run here. And then basically I already get an output. And maybe I can explain a little bit what we see here. At the left here, this little box is our little summary. So here I can see how much in terms of the size of my model is used anywhere, meaning all the columns that are needed in one way or another. Either could be like in a visual or something, but also could be part of a measure expression, even if something is used in Power Query and so on. Basically, the tool tracks everything. So that's the idea, that it really tells you if you are using this column or measure or not. And if not, that's where the name comes from. It wants to help you to kill those unused columns and measures. So the idea is.
Oh, Gregor, can you zoom in a bit, if possible?
Sure. Can make my resolution a little smaller. Maybe this is bigger. Is this better?
Thank you.
Great. So the idea of the tool is to separate your model into used and unused. So all the columns you actually need, and the unused, the idea there is that you can remove them without anything happening. Even like if it's in a conditional formatting or a filter or something, the tool will detect it. So in our little summary here, I can see that I have 87% of the size of my model used. And basically I have, in this case, a quite good report. I only have 13% of my model in terms of what I can save, what I can improve if I take out the unused parts of the model. And in the main table, you can see it's a list of all, or a table of all the columns. We also have field parameters here and obviously measures. And then we can see if they are used or not. And if they're used, I can sort here by the number of uses overall. Like this profit measure, I can see it's used 11 times, 3 times in other measures, and 8 times in visuals, for example. And so that way I can go through and also see, for example, if I want to change a measure, if I want to do something, what will be the impact all across my one report, or like I said, multiple reports. Even in the online version, you can also scan paginated reports and even Excel files that are connected to the Power BI semantic model. Any questions so far?
None so far.
Great. So maybe just to give you some context on what exactly the tool is tracking. So for example, we check if something is used in a relationship, in column sorting, in a calculated table, in some kind of hierarchy, field parameters, calculation groups, obviously visuals and all kinds of filters. We even check if a column is used in Power Query. So it could be that your column is completely unused in the front end, even in a relationship, it's not connected anywhere, but maybe that column is somehow used in a join in Power Query, and then it would also detect that. Here we can see, for example, that this dates column here from the calendar table, it has this little key symbol. So in this case, it's used also as a key column in the model. It has been tagged as the key. And then also it's used in one relationship and also in 2 calculation items of my calculation group. We can also see all the DAX expressions. So we have all the measures, calculated tables, calculated columns potentially. And the nice thing here is I cannot just see the code, but I can also search. So I can basically search all the DAX code at once. And that way, maybe I can find, I don't know, yeah, like here I was looking for the distinct count. Maybe this is not the best way to, when we have performance in mind. If I want to just look for, like I have 1,000 measures or something in a large report, I can search which functions I'm using all across, and maybe I want to change or improve something. We can also do the same thing for the M expressions. So here, this is also quite handy. Personally, I use this a lot whenever maybe some colleagues who are working more in the back end, they're changing a view, or they want to get rid of something, and they're asking me, hey, where are you using this view? Are you using this table at all? Then I can easily do a text search here. For example, in this case, I'm just going to search for data flows because that's my source, and then I can see exactly which queries are consuming this. And I could do the same thing for a view or table from a database, for example. So now we've seen, okay, I know the tool tells me what is used, what is unused, but what am I going to do then, right? So I can also remove something with Measure Killer directly. So I can first of all here filter all the unused stuff, so I can just see what is not used at all. And here you will see that we also have a different color, like it's not just red and white or green, there's also a yellow. This is kind of a specialty in the sense that if something is used, it will be green. If something is unused, it's red. But if a column, for example, like this one here, is only used by other columns that are unused themselves, then we will say it's used by unused, meaning once I remove all the red ones, the yellow ones will become red, and I can also kick them out. So in this case, actually, we don't have any measures, but maybe let me just create one. I'm just going to create an unused measure. Test unused equals 0. I'm just going to add this to my model. I'm going to run Measure Killer again. And now it will show up here in the killing part. So here I can remove the unused measures, calculated columns, and so on by just writing to the model locally. This is just like other tools do it, for example, like Tabular Editor or something. So I can take out those just by clicking on the kill button here. Maybe you would say, oh, this is risky because it's gone, right? And what if I needed it or something happens? For that, we actually have a restore feature. So let me just remove this now, and I can click here. It's killing it. And then also it disappears immediately from Power BI. But what if I want to put this back to life, so to speak? I have this option to restore. So everything that I ever removed with Measure Killer will be backed up like on this machine wherever I'm doing it. So there's like a folder keeping those backups. If I want to do this across multiple machines, I can also specify a OneDrive folder, and then it will put all those JSON files, all those JSON backup files there. So then I have everything synced all across my devices. But I can just select this here now and click on Restore. And now it's writing it back to the model. It also wants to run the analysis again, but we can see here that this test unused measure is back, including all the formatting, display folders, and everything. Everything is kept or is restored, so to speak. So that way, it's quite safe. If you remove something, you can restore it again. Any questions?
Oh, yeah. In the Power Query, how do you define if the column's unused? Because if you say you have a column, you give it a type, does that count as a being used?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. We had to kind of judge there because not everything is used. If we just, I don't know, you just rename it or something, and then you don't use it anywhere else, right? We wouldn't say it's used. But for example, if you use it in a join, if you create a reference and then you use that column there. So the things that really break with some kind of impact, if you just rename it and then you never use it, then we would say it's not used because the renaming step is useless anyway because you don't need this column anywhere else. So that's basically how we judge. So it's things like merge or joins and this kind of things. Those are the things that we consider used. Not sure if I have something here, but I can show this. Oh yeah, here we have something. Order date is used, Power Query reference, and I can also right click here. I can check the M expression. And I can also see here, it's doing list max. So those things that actually have an impact. Yeah, like this here, you can see that's where this column is used. But that's a great question because, of course, there are also some transformations you do that maybe don't make any difference if you take out the column or not, because you actually don't need it. But it still might be a reference in the M code, right? So
When you remove the column, you just add an extra step at the end.
yes, so exactly. So the DAX stuff, we can write to the model directly. We can just kill those things. And we have the restore feature. And then for the actual columns, Power Query columns, like you pointed out, we add a step at the end. So we don't change everything. We just add it at the end. Of course, for query folding and some performance optimization, this is not ideal, but it's a safe way because that way we know for sure that nothing will break. So basically what the tool does, it either creates a table.select column step at the end, or it does a table.remove columns. And you just copy paste this M code into your Power Query. I'm not sure if I need to re-authenticate now because I think I'm logged in with the wrong account, but this is the dProducts query. So I'm gonna go to dProducts and I'm just gonna paste this in here, and you can see that it just adds this at the end. Everything else stays the same. I can click on done, load it into the front end, and then the column will go away. And yeah, that way is also very safe because if I ever wanna go back, I can just remove this step that Measure Killer created, and then everything is back to how it was.
Gregor, on that last point, could you ever automate that Power Query code creation? So you had to go back and copy and paste. If you use something like TMDL, could that be automated?
Great question. Yes. So actually, let's do this right now. So we have this one-click optimization here. This requires a PBIP file, so that needs Timdal indeed. And for that, let me see. So if I save this as PBIP to downloads, I just have to be careful because do I have PBIR on? Because that one, I think, I'm not sure if we tested this, but let's just see what happens. But normally with the PBIP, what it does is it creates a new file that is optimized. So so now I saved it as PBIP, and now I also need to select this in Measure Killer so it knows what I'm doing. Let me actually just refresh this. So imagine I select this, I run it. Yeah, I have some same output just like before. And now I can run this one-click optimization. And that will create a new file. I'm just gonna select my downloads folder. So here now it removes everything. And it basically creates a new optimized version of my report. I just not really sure if this also works with PBR. I hope so. It's like the first time I can test it now. Otherwise, I would have to turn off the preview feature. But yeah, so the only thing I need to do here now is there is no data in here. So it creates a blank PBIR or PBIP, and then I need to refresh it. So I need to refresh one time, and then now I have to authenticate again. Yeah. So I need to, not sure which workspace this is, but yeah, so the point is basically that it creates a new file where it has everything taken out. You don't need to do anything manually, but then you need to do a full refresh.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
that's how it works.
Thank you.
Sure. We also added already before the model best practices. So those are just the Microsoft BPA rules. Like, I don't know, do not summarize numeric columns, hide your keys, use the divide function instead of just instead of doing this, you should use the divide function. So those are just some best practices, and you can see that it has different levels of severity. So some things are considered more serious, and some things are more lax violations. And then we create a score and we rate the model all the way from, it goes from Power BI Pro to Power BI Criminal. So if you have a lot of violations, it will flag you as a Power BI criminal. And those rules can be adjusted in the settings. So you can also decide which ones you want to include. And just today, like I said, we released a version today. We also have the report best practice rules. So this is brand new. Here we have 3 rules that are violated by this report that I'm showing. In total, there's, I don't know, like 12 rules or something. Reduce the total number of pages. So you can set, for example, that any report should have a maximum number of 20 pages. Otherwise, it will be treated as a violation. The number of visuals per page, that's a big one, I think. And then also there's stuff like reduce the number of artifacts within a visual. So imagine you have a table and you added 20 columns or 20 different measures to that table. That table will be very slow, potentially. So in that case, you could set this, in my case, it's maximum 6 things in one visual. And then it seems like this one chart here has more than that. Profit by month and year. I think it's this one. So this one you can see here, it has 2, 4, 5 fields, and then it has 4 more in the tooltips. So this one now violates this rule, and then it gets a violation score, but still it says it's Power BI Pro. So yeah. The last one is from a former colleague of mine who was part of our team, Martin Fiedler, who always got super angry when anybody used any pie charts. And we kind of agree with him, but yeah, we wanted to give him the credit of if you use a pie or donut chart, it's the Martin Fiedler rule, and then it will be also part of the violations. But of course, you can also take this out if you're fine with those. But for us, it's severity 1, so very low, but still not great if you have a lot of those. Any questions? Comments?
Actually, if you speak loud enough.
Yeah, I'll speak loudly. Just about the software itself, because I don't know if it's typical of larger organisations or any organisation, but extremely resistant to installing any third-party software of any type, and you have to jump through multiple hoops. In terms of this application, is it used in enterprise offerings, and what sort of demands are on the? Where's it installed? How do you get across those barriers? We have got Tabular Editor. I've had a go with it and it confuses me, and I know nobody else in my team uses it. This looks like an ideal solution because it is, it looks easy to use and will give some great functionality.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of large organization using it. The tool grew a lot over the last few years. We have thousands of people using it every day. So it got pretty big, and also some very, very big companies, governments also are using it. So of course, there's a process involved in getting it approved, and we also help out there. I just opened the security white paper in the background that's just showing whatever the tool does. But this is mostly for the paid version that runs in the Power BI service. If you just want to run the free version that runs locally, it works completely offline, and everything stays on the client. So it's a desktop application that does everything there, and it stays there. Yeah, it's very, very hands off, I would say. That's why also we usually get it approved, and didn't have any problems in that respect. Maybe I can also quickly show what we can customize with those rules that I just showed. So for example, for the report best practices, the maximum, I don't know, number of visuals per page, for example, you can see here, we can say 26 and so on. You can set this yourself. For example, also we can make sure that pages don't scroll, right? If you have a huge scroll bar on your page, you have 100 visuals there, it's not great. So you can set the maximum height of your page in pixels, and everything above that will be a violation, and so on. And those are the model rules. How much time do I have left? I'm not really sure with the schedule, about the schedule.
30 minutes.
Sorry, how much?
30 minutes.
30, okay. Great. Okay. Yeah, so we went through the rules. What else? Let me just go back. I'm just gonna load this analysis again. We also have you can drill down into the pages and then into the visuals, and you can see exactly what is used in a visual. So that can also be very interesting to see all the columns and measures you need to build a visual, because it could be somewhere hidden in conditional formatting, all kinds of stuff. The tool exposes that. Or if you want to know, for example, on a page, like what do I need to maintain my overview page? I can see that I get those 10 columns. So in one way or another, I need those 10 columns here to maintain this page. And also there are 6 measures used one way or another. And then those measures obviously are using, maybe other measures are used, and then they're using columns. But in the end, you can see here that we always end up, if I go down this hierarchy, I always end up with some columns or tables, and then they will show up also in this list of columns. So those are really the 10 columns that I need. And then those measures, they are also used somewhere, but yeah, I can basically see this from here, because this is really hard to find out on your own because of all the visuals and the whole complexity of things. Okay. If there are no other questions, I'm gonna show some more advanced stuff. So we've seen now the first mode. This is offline with this little cloud crossed out. So those are the 2 offline modes. Those are part of the free version. The second mode is for analyzing multiple reports that are connected to a model. In that case, I need to download all the files though and plug it into the tool. And then we have a bunch of online features. And I just want to quickly show what this is about. Imagine I have a semantic model in the service that is widely used, a golden data set or whatever, and people are building reports on top of that. I can also see what is used from this model, meaning in any of the reports that are connected. And this is really interesting because as soon as you upload those models and they have a bunch of reports connected, it gets really, really hard, almost impossible to do this manually, to find out what I can cut out from this model. And in practice, those models just get bigger and bigger. We add new columns, obviously the rows, we get more data over time. And so those models grow and grow and grow. And we have seen some crazy, crazy big models with like, I don't know, 40 gigabytes, 10,000 measures and columns. And then, yeah, the idea is we want to clean those up, right? So now I'm connecting to the Power BI service. So what I need to do here is just I need to authenticate with my Microsoft account. And then the tool goes into, does some API calls to get all the workspaces. So in my case, I'm in the Brunner BI projects workspace, and I'm interested in the weather data set. That's the one we can see here also. I click on next. So now I'm getting where we have reports connected. This is a little information here that is telling me, okay, there's even a report in this workspace that we don't know the name of the workspace, but we have an ID because I don't have access to that. So it's showing me there is more and I might miss something. And the idea here is basically you can either run it with your permissions, whatever you have access to, or we also have a different way to run the tool using, I'm just going to start a second version of Measure Killer to show you. I can also run Measure Killer as a tenant admin. That's the same mode, the shared model online. I just ran this one. I can also run it as an admin. And then I will basically see everything there is, not just what I have access to. So here on the left now, those are the workspaces I have access to. I'm going to click next. Now it's building this lineage, meaning it finds all the reports that are connected to this model. And I'm going to do the same thing now, running it as a tenant admin, just to show you what the difference is. Will be done in a second. So so on the left side now we have the one where I'm just a developer. I'm not a tenant admin. I'm not a super admin. But then on the right, you can see that, for example, it's showing me what access I have. It doesn't show me that on the left. It's showing me the workspace level access. And here it's also showing some reports where I don't even have access. So I don't have access to those workspaces, but it's showing it anyway, because in that case, in our case, I'm a tenant admin, and we can use different API calls to find everything that is connected to this model. So those are all reports that are connected to the model. And I don't have access to all of them, but the tool is showing me it anyway. So this is just important if you want to clean up a model, different ways to look at it, because maybe you don't want to miss a report that is in some workspace that you didn't think of. Then it's smart to run it as an admin. But if you know where all the reports are in which workspaces and you have access to those workspaces, then you can just run it as a developer. And then we'll see exactly what is shown here. So I can see Power BI reports. Those are just called reports, but also paginated reports that are connected to my Power BI model. And we can even see some downstream or composite models. So those are all, it is everything that is connected to this model. And then we also just included the views. So here you can see how often a certain report has been viewed in the last 30 days, which is really cool. So this is the #1 report of all the ones that are connected to this model, because yeah, some reports might not have been opened at all. And what if nobody needs them? So I could take out some of those if I'm sure that nobody cares about them. They could even break down, worst case, because yeah, nobody is looking at them, and I know it's just, I don't know, something that nobody ever looks at. The idea is here that we include all the reports that are somehow relevant, that should stay alive, that shouldn't break down, because if I include them, then it will become part of the Measure Killer analysis. It will show me where everything is used. But if I take out the report, then of course, maybe something could only be used there and the report would break down when I clean up my model. Any questions, please?
How do you get the number of views? Because you're running as a developer, so you're not loading the activity logs, right?
Yes, we're not, this is not coming from the activity logs. There are different, we actually also have a function if you run it as an admin to get it from the activity logs. But here we're doing something similar to the report usage metrics. And that way we can basically get the consumption. And also we have the average load time here, which is also really interesting. And here you can see the worst one is number 1 in this case. It's also good to see like how slow.
Is that for the main page?
Sorry?
Is that for the main page or just generally?
That's the that's basically yeah. It always counts when you open the report how long it takes to load. Yes, I think it's the first page that is open. So it's just some extra information here because before we didn't have those 2 columns and people just picked the correct reports. But maybe this is some help here to give some extra insights into the quality of those reports.
And you run the admin scan with the service principal.
Sorry, when the admin?
Service principal.
I didn't hear that, sorry.
And you run the admin scan as a service principal?
Oh, so no, not yet. Right now you still need a user for that. The thing is that some of the API calls, some of the things we're doing is not supported yet by Service Principal. There are some limitations left there. For example, models with row level security I think in Pro workspaces or something. Yeah, some things are not really working there yet. So that's why we're planning on doing this, but only when we basically can cover everything by the Service Principal as well. So when I'm done here, selecting my reports that are important, I can just either hit run, or you can see here I have one more option to add a local file. So in this case, I could add, I don't know, something that is still under development, even Power BI or paginate reports, even Excel files. So the Excel files, and now I'm gonna switch back to the second version, running it as an admin. That's where it gets very interesting with Excel, because we need the tenant admin permissions there to basically, we have a way to find the Excel users. So let me just select this model. So now I can see again the same thing as before, but now as an admin. And here I have the option to get the activity logs. And in this case here, we also have the views, but now I'm interested in the Excel users. So here I can see per model in my whole tenant actually, who is doing analyze in Excel, when are they doing that, and what exactly are they doing. We have like 2 activities that we track. One is creating the Excel file. So that's basically if somebody clicks here, as soon as you click here, it's creating the Excel file. And then whenever you refresh that, it's a separate activity. And that's basically tracked here. And the idea here is not just to show this, but also we want to maybe include those people or their Excel files in our analysis, because I have everything here, but what if somebody is doing Excel on top of this model, and one measure is only used in an Excel file? We're going to kick out that measure because we think it's unused. But then that person's Excel file will break down. So The idea is here to copy the email addresses, reach out to those people, get the Excel file, and then once I have the Excel file, I can basically, let me see, where do I have? I'm just gonna add a random file. I can drag and drop it in here. And then if something is only used there or whatever is used there, it will show up in the analysis. Just so we don't miss anything. That's the idea. I'm gonna take it out since it has nothing to do with this. Now I'm gonna run. And I need to authenticate once more here for XMLA to get the metadata of the models. And then this just takes a few seconds. Now it's getting all the metadata of the reports and so on. And then it also shows me if everything went well. And then I have my output here, just like before, showing all the used and unused. But since we have a bunch of reports now included, you can see that things are used more. I can see, oh, this is used in a report level measure, even this column, and so on, in the paginated report, et cetera, et cetera. Any questions? The last thing I want to show is this tenant analysis. Here we also have two ways to run it. One's as a developer. The other one is as an admin, tenant admin. We also have some sample data here, and I'm just going to try to see to show you this with sample data because it's fastest. This is to give me an overview of our whole tenant. So here I can see just how many workspaces we have, data sources, data flows, how many models and reports. And then I can also see everything just by workspace. So I can see all the models, whatever is in our workspace. Also, you can see here if it's a pro or a premium workspace. We also have all kinds of metadata here, some details, including also the users that are in that workspace, or if it's not named users, the groups. So this is part of this monitoring or governance solution that Measure has. And for example, if we're gonna look at our weather data set here, in terms of the lineage, this is a lineage view for all the models. I can see all the reports, paginate reports, downstream models, and also I can see that this semantic model is also consuming data from two data flows. And then I can see where those data flows get the data from. So we have all this lineage information here also for, I don't know, databases. Those are basically all the connections you also get in the Power BI service. And you can see which models are connected and then which reports are connected to that and so on. We also have an access tab, which is pretty cool. You can see all the users or groups, and you can see what access they have all across the tenant. So this includes the Power BI and the Fabric artifacts. So for example, here, this admin group has access to those models, to those dashboards, and to those workspaces. Or my user has access, I can see it, to a lot of stuff. And so I can select basically which level I want to see. Even I can look at reports, and now I can say, I don't know, workspace type. I want to look at the personal workspaces. And now I can see some into basically the reports in personal workspaces in our organization. And I can see that, so we automatically highlight if somebody gave somebody else access to a report in a personal workspace. So if it's not you who is the owner of that workspace, that person will be flagged. So that's just because, yeah, this is somewhat circumventing our access policies. Maybe you could just share a lot of reports from your personal workspaces with all kinds of other people, even give them reshare rights, like here, which could be a problem in some cases. Any questions so far?
I assume you're not using the Graph API to link groups down to users above the hierarchy.
Correct. So we're basically here, we're just showing what is in Power BI, what is assigned to a workspace or granted access to a certain artifact. If you want to see who is inside the groups, of course, you would need to export. So we have some exports. In that case, you can get all the user access rights, export them, and then join them with whoever is in your access group to get the real access, obviously, because we don't have, we're just using the Power BI permissions. Yeah. We also have a overview here of all the models. So you could see you have a list of all Power BI models in your whole tenant. You can see the size. You can see how many queries or tables that model has, how many columns. So I don't know if you see a model with 500 columns and it's taking forever to refresh. It's maybe not a surprise. We also have calculated columns, measures. And here you can see if the last refresh was successful or not, the average duration of the refresh. And here we also have the best practice score. So you can sort by the best practice score. And then even, I don't know, if I right click here, I can see what exactly, which best practices have been violated, how many times, where. I can even export that to basically clean up or start cleaning up this model. The same, almost the same we have for the data flows. This is mostly refreshed, and no best practices here, of course, but we can just see how many queries are in a data flow, how long it takes to refresh, and what is the schedule, and so on. Any questions so far?
How about the connection string of the Tableau board? Is there any like a section that you can see the connection string, that like a connection strings and properties, and perhaps and perhaps you can update it possible.
Connection string of data flows and models, yes.
How likely is Microsoft to kind of replicate some of this, and is it ever gonna do something this great? Because this is like the best analysis of a report I've ever seen.
Well, I think so. Yeah, we're trying to add a lot of stuff, right? And if you have any ideas, I'm also open for any suggestions. We always try to improve this, and we're working very fast. I think that's why Microsoft can never really keep up with us, because they have these huge development cycles, and maybe they have like, I don't know, 20 people working on it, but still it's taking them forever to do stuff. I think they started doing a little bit with the One Lake Hub. You can see, I don't know, everything that is inside your workspace, you know, the easy stuff, I would say. So they also know that, especially with Fabric, everything is growing like crazy. You have all kinds of stuff in every workspace, 50 different types of items. They need to provide more governance, more monitoring solutions. So I think they're working in this area, but I don't know exactly what they're planning. And yeah, from what I've seen, I think this One Lake Hub is kind of interesting. So it's here, and then you can see, I don't know, you can filter by domain. Actually, we also added domains recently, actually with this update, I think. Where are the domains? Oh, here. This is a good way to tag your workspaces, right? So you can say, oh, this is part of the finance domain or HR or whatever, so that you can group those workspaces a little bit. But here in this one like catalog, how it's called, you can see everything that you have access to, I think. So you can also go into the workspaces and see all the items, but there's also Purview, which I haven't really used much. I just heard that it's quite expensive, but so they have a couple of things, but I don't know. We just have our own ideas, and we're quite community driven. So we, as soon as somebody has a good idea, we say, hey, okay, that we'll put that into the next version and so on. So yeah.
And how is this priced? Is like a fixed fee or like per user?
Yeah, so it's per user. I mean, this like tenant analysis is more of the advanced stuff, so it costs around €1,000 per year per user. This is the enterprise version, and that also includes support from us. Like what I showed at the beginning, all of this just running on a couple of models is free. So everything you do offline in Power BI Desktop is part of the free version, and as soon as it goes into the Power BI service, that's part of the paid version. But for those connections, please.
It'd be really useful on the tenant analysis, able to identify measures that are running slow in particular visuals.
Not really. So we did add the average load time for the report. So if I have all the reports, if I run this tenant analysis on all my reports in a tenant, I can see the views, obviously. I can also see the views per page. Actually, this is something really cool and new, to get the page views. That's not really available that easily. But we have only the load time. So we have the average load time per report. And then I can go in and see that for every day. But we don't really do any DAX optimization. We thought about doing something like this, but it's a little different to what our goal is. So that is a little too detailed for this tenant analysis. We're more, right now at least, we're still on a report performance level. That's what we want to show. But yeah, you can see a lot of that, I think, in the capacity metrics app, right? Actually, I built my own little version of it because I don't like the standard one so much. But here, of course, you would see maybe expensive DAX queries, but it's quite tricky to find exactly. Yeah, I don't know, I built my own little thing here to see all the workspaces and just to see the CU consumption per item, for example. But in the metrics app, yeah, probably know, that's why I asked the question, but yeah, we don't really have anything in this area right now. I'm just experimenting a little bit here myself to see what costs more, and I've done some analysis with data flows Gen 1 and Gen 2, which one are more efficient, which one are faster, and so on, just to see how everything is working, Yeah, so for the connection string, so you can scan or you can search actually all the M code here. That's one thing that might be useful. So if you run the analysis on all the models and data flows in your whole tenant, you can search for a view, a database view. Do we have some? What do we have here? Let's see. I'm not really sure. This sample doesn't have so much. I don't know. We can say Power BI data flows. Yeah. So this is the old, for example, this is the old Power BI data flows connector. Now the new one is the Power Platform data flows connector. So here I can search for all the models, or in this case, it's just 2 data flows that still have this old connector. in the M code. So that way, maybe I can find, like you said, some connections, like something is outdated, or I can say, okay, this view from our database, we will change something here. We want to see the impact all across the models and data flows. Where do we need to adjust stuff once we change this database table? That way, that's something I could do with this M search. It's really hard to do this otherwise, because you don't get really down to the view or table level normally. Any other questions? We also have the DAX expressions. So imagine those could be a million measures from all the models and so on. And here we have like duplicates. This is, I think, kind of interesting because you can basically find measures that have the same expression, but they're called differently. So here we take out the white space, we take out the comments from the measure DAX expression, and then we say, okay, whatever else is left now, if those are identical, we say it's a duplicate, and then we'll tell you the names of those measures and where they are. And then maybe you can take a look at if this is intended or not. And the last thing is row level security. So you can get for all the models, all the row level security expressions and also the members. So this is really cool because you can see who was assigned that role in the Power BI service. And that way, this can also be exported, of course. You can see if your security setup, whatever, is exactly the way you intended it.
Do you have object level security as well?
Sorry, what?
Do you have object level security as well?
No. So generally, in the other modes, when we analyze what is used and what is unused, there we have object level security, but here on a tenant level, no, we don't have that yet. But I think we can get it probably from querying all the models. Yeah, maybe that's something we can look at for the next version. Thank you.
Come up to time, Gregor. Any final questions, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Final question. No? Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Gregor. Been a interesting one. Yeah, definitely, because there's a free version. Fridays on my Power BI I need to build some of my measures. Mostly it's my code.
Yeah, and even we give trial licenses to everyone. So if you're curious about the other stuff, you can just get a free trial. It's not a problem. Everybody should be able to try it out at least. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.